find the solutions to these equations, and then plot the solutions on the real or the imaginary number line. Remember that there should be two solutions for each problem, and that's the reason for that is because these are all parabolas, and when you have a parabola and a straight line crosses through it crosses through at two different points. So if we take a squared is equal to 1, we take the square root of both sides, and remember that we take the positive square root and the negative square root. So we have a is equal to positive 1 and it's equal to negative 1. So the positive solution would be 1, the negative solution would be negative 1, and so we're going to graph both of those on the real number line because those are real numbers. So we have a positive solution and we have a negative solution. All right, for b, we have b squared is equal to 13. So again, we're going to take the square root on both sides, and we have to take the positive and the negative version of that square root. So you would have b is equal to the positive square root of 13 and the negative square root of 13. So we have the square root of 13 and we have the negative square root of 13. And that's going to be somewhere in between 3 and 4 on the number line, because 3 squared is 9 and 4 squared is 16. So in between 3 and 4 somewhere. And now we move to c. And so c squared is equal to negative 25. And typically we would say that there's no solution because you can't square a number and get a negative. But now that we have I, we can take the square root of a negative number. So remember, this changes to the I, and then we take the square root of the number that's underneath. So this would be 5i, and we have to do the positive version and we have to do the negative version. And so we're going to plot that on our imaginary axis because those are imaginary numbers. Anything that has an I with it is an imaginary number. So we have positive 5i and we have negative 5i. And then our last one we have is d squared is equal to negative 7. And again, similar to this one over here, we used to say that it was no solution because of the negative, but now that we have I, that imaginary number, we can take the square root of negatives. We just have to remember to take both the positive and the negative version of that imaginary number. So that becomes an I, and then we have the square root of 7. We have the positive version of the square root of 7i and the negative version of the square root of 7i. And that's what d is equal to. And so the square root of 7 would be in between 2 and 3 because 2 squared is 4 and 3 squared is 9. So somewhere in between here. And then we have the negative version also. And so there we have our two solutions for each equation. So this would be the square root of 7i and this would be the negative square root of 7i.